I've got nothing to say. I've got no feelings towards him. Just that I'm going to smash his absolute brains in. So yeah, it's just I can't wait.
Welcome back to Fighting Words. I'm your host, Carissa Maxwell, joined as always by senior combat writer Andreas Hale and senior combat editor Tom Gray. We've got another big fight this weekend. We have Josh Taylor against Teofimo Lopez live at the Hulu Arena at Madison Square Garden, Saturday, June 10th on ESPN+. Josh Taylor, of course, will be defending his WBO and Ring magazine title belts against the former king of the lightweight division. Now, we know there's some bad blood between these two guys, but they both have 19 fights, 13 knockouts, but one of them has a loss, and that loss kind of derailed what I think everybody thought was going to be a complete reign of the division, and that was Teofimo Lopez's loss to George Kambosos Jr. Now, he's been saying a lot of things heading into this fight. This is kind of his redemption fight, if you will, and one of the things that he said that, we've talked a lot in the past, it's not really cool, is saying that he wants to take Josh Taylor's life. Now, if you look at other fights where language like this has been used in trash talking, specifically Deontay Wilder, the question always comes, what's going on with these guys mentally? Are they mentally fit to step in the ring and prepared to take on these fights? Because they're kind of using their words in a way that's really damaging and not exactly, productive for putting on a good fight in a show to get these titles back. So when you look at this matchup, how do you feel Teofimo Lopez is mentally prepared to step into the ring with Josh Taylor?
I think before Teofimo Lopez made those comments, there were already question marks over his mental state in relation to boxing. And I know that he's had problems outside of the ring, but even in the win over Sandor Martin, he was in the corner saying, have I still got it? There seemed to be a lot of self-doubt. The comments in relation to taking a fighter's life, I'll say it the same way I said it when Deontay Wilder said it, it's a shortcut to thinking. You're just not using your brains. You're an elite level athlete and you're an ambassador for the sport and you're a role model for kids. And that is not the way to go, is to talk about taking someone's life. I mean, imagine the black stain on the sport if Josh Taylor got hurt in that fight. It's an idiotic thing to say. It turns my stomach. Deontay Wilder used to say, I'm the one in there taking the risks. I'll say what I want. Fine. If you want to be that flippant about it, fair enough. But I'll never be flippant about it. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think it was disgusting when Wilder said it. And I think it's disgusting that Lopez has said it. That's my take.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, Tom. I mean, listen, I'm all for trash talk. I love when fighters talk trash. It makes people excited for a fight. But when you're in a sport where the job is to knock somebody unconscious and you end up doing that and then there's a chance that they could die, you can't say stuff like that. Now, the questions around Teofimo Lopez's mentality they're true. I mean, look, he's got all the talent in the world. He beat Vasily Lomachenko. But mentally, since that fight, he hasn't been right. Now, you can argue before that fight, he wasn't right either. He's got to get his head right. I don't like what he said about taking Josh Taylor's life. I don't know what it means for him when he steps into the ring, because if Teofimo Lopez is clicking, very few can beat him. But mentally right now, he's all over the place. But that's kind of who he is now. Listen, we're in a sport where you got to get punched in the face for a living, so you got to be a little cuckoo before you step into a boxing ring. But Teofimo takes it a little notch further than that. And I hope he can rectify whatever's going on outside of the ring so he can fix what's going on inside of the ring. And we'll see what happens on Saturday night.
And you mentioned his defeat of Vasily Lomachenko. That was clearly a highlight of his career on his resume. And Tom, even when you spoke to Josh Taylor earlier this week, he had said that he's preparing for that Teofimo Lopez. He's preparing to fight that guy because that's the guy that he's, I don't want to say scared of, but that he knows is a very talented fighter. But Josh Taylor is also coming off the longest layoff of his career. He hasn't fought in 15 months. And that last fight, it was a controversial split decision. So he's coming into this feeling like he has a lot to prove. Now, the flip side of that is that he also told you that up until this year, he really felt like he didn't have anything to prove at the 140 weight class, and he was going to move up. But now, of course, we have Devin Haney, we have Ryan Garcia, we have Tank Davis, we have a potential rematch with Prograis. So there is a lot of competition that is actually now within view. So do you feel that going into this fight, he actually has more to prove than Teofimo Lopez on top of defending the belts that he already has?
I don't know if he's got more to prove. He's got different things to prove. I mean, Josh wants to silence not only Lopez, but all the doubters that emerged after the Catterall performance. And he made a great point when I spoke to him. You know, he took out Victor Postol, Ivan Baranchik, Ryan Martin, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez. These guys were all unbeaten. Josh was on fire. He was top 5 rated pound for pound. And then because of that, the performance against Catterall, all of that kind of sank, and all this vitriol started, was the way that I quoted it in the feature. So he wants to prove he is still at the pure elite level. He's got tons to prove, I think, to the fans and to himself. Josh, maintains that he knows how good he is, but I think an outstanding performance here will help his mindset a lot in terms of where he's at if he's to do that. But Lopez has still got a lot to prove, because he's got the same kind of doubters since the Kambosos loss, and even in the wins since then, it's not looked like vintage Lopez. So both men have got a lot to prove, but it's different things. I mean, if Lopez can win this fight, it's a sensational result for him. It takes him back into the pound-for-pound top 10. It would be huge. If Josh wins it, he proves that he is still at the elite level and that he's never left.
Yeah, I mean, in my humble opinion, I think Teofimo has more to prove than Josh Taylor. Teofimo is the one who's coming with a loss on his record. Josh Taylor is undefeated. And yes, most of us that saw the Catterall fight thought he lost that fight. So I understand where Josh has something to prove, but he still has that world title. He was the undisputed champion at 140 pounds. Teofimo Lopez is coming off of a loss to George Kambosos, which nobody saw coming. And he was, it was still a close fight, but George Kambosos wasn't in Teofimo's league heading into that fight. And now we've questioned how great he was, because beating Lomachenko got him on the pound-for-pound list. Losing to Kambosos knocked him off of that list. And he's a young kid. I mean, look, he's under 30. I think he's 26. He's got so much to prove, because not only is he battling the doubters and the haters and things of that nature, but he's battling himself. Him asking himself that question in the corner, do I still have it? He has to prove it against Josh Taylor. Now, on the other side of this, Josh Taylor says, I'm preparing for the Teofimo Lopez's fight in Vasily Lomachenko. Duh. You don't prepare for the worst version of a fighter. You always prepare for the best version of a fighter. If I ever hear a fighter say, yeah, I can't wait to fight the worst version of that individual, that's stupid. And that's utterly ridiculous. But if we're asking who's got more to prove, I'm going to go with Teofimo. Josh has things to prove, but he's still undefeated.
So out of this fight, who's the next contender that makes sense? Because there are belts on the line. It's funny, we've talked about this at length, but some of the biggest fights this year have not been title defenses. There were no belts on the line, and there actually are now. So what is the next move for either Josh Taylor or Teofimo Lopez to continue that reign, or that, again, comeback if Lopez were to win, to kind of regain that title? Because at one time he was the champion of that division. So I'm sure that he's trying to make that comeback. So who should they fight next to continue moving back up that pound for pound list?
I think the fight I would like to see, if Josh were to come through, in fact, even if Lopez wins, I think a unification fight with Regis Prograis. I know Regis has got a fight coming up, but he's a heavy favourite. But, I was at the first fight. I mean, I don't know what Andreas thought, but I thought it was a classic. It was a terrific fight between those two. And the styles gelled perfectly, tons of mid-range and inside combat. It was spectacular to watch. So that's a fight that I would love to see. But you've also got, and I was speaking to Josh about this, when Josh was about to leave 140, there was nothing more to do. But when you've got Ryan Garcia moving in and Devin Haney moving in and Tank Davis has been at 140, all these fights are still there for Josh if he stays there. What will be crucial is how good Josh looks at the weight. Josh is boiling down again to 140. He's been at that weight since he turned pro in 2015. He looks much better now than he did heading into the Catterall fight. We'll see how he looks at the weigh-in. But a lot of it's going to depend from Josh's side. He could win this fight and still say, nah, wasn't feeling it. I want to move up to 147. I didn't feel at my optimum best in this weight class. So he could move up. Lopez wins. It's his kind of introduction to the division. He can fight any of these names. He can fight Prograis. He can fight Ryan Garcia. He can fight Devin Haney. The doors would just swing open for Lopez if he were to win.
Yeah, I think Regis Prograis is the name for both of them. That's who you should fight. Regis Prograis is kind of the dark horse of 140 pounds. I mean, he lost to Josh Taylor in what was a fantastic fight, but he's somebody that nobody really wants to fight. When you look at Regis Prograis and what he can accomplish, he's a heavy-handed, he's a big puncher. He's got a great chin. He's offensively minded. He's dangerous for anybody, and he can talk a good game as well. So I think either way, both of these guys should be looking at Regis Prograis next, unless Devin Haney were to move up, which I don't think he should do. The more I think about it, the more I think he needs to stay and fight Lomachenko again and prove himself before moving up to 140 pounds. But right now, Josh Taylor, Teofimo Lopez, the winner of this should fight Regis Prograis. And to your point, yes, Josh Taylor could move up to 147 pounds, Tom, but right now, with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford locked in step with these titles, there's nothing for Josh Taylor to do at that particular point unless he can't make 140 pounds anymore. The more lucrative fights for him at 140 pounds, he should stay there if he wins this fight.
We've got a title defense on the line with Josh Taylor defending his WBO and Ring magazine belt. Like I said, Saturday night at the Hulu Arena, Madison Square Garden. It's actually going to be his first fight in the world's most famous arena, so a little bit of added pressure there. But with this matchup against Teofimo Lopez, Andreas, who do you got?
Listen, man, as much mental issues that we saw with Teofimo Lopez, I'm picking him. I think he's the better athlete. I think his reflexes are phenomenal. When he's on his game, I think he's one of the best in the world. I think Josh Taylor's incredible. He was the underdog through that entire run at 140 pounds. Even heading into the Ramirez fight, a lot of people didn't believe in Josh Taylor. I believe in him, but I just think that Teofimo Lopez is going to find a way to get it done and shut up everybody. He'll just have to be on his game. So, Teo, I'm picking you, but you got to do me a favor and get your brain in the game. Otherwise, you're going to make me look like a fool.
I'm not going to be picking against my countrymen here. I think that Josh Taylor wins the fight. As we've said, if Teofimo is showing mental fragility in this game, he's getting in against a truth machine on Saturday night. I mean, if Josh can sense any weakness physically or mentally, he'll be all over the top of it. He's much stronger. He is mentally superior. His resume, even though you've got Lomachenko on Teofimo's resume, that's at lightweight. He's getting in against a big super lightweight here who's mixed with the best, taking the best punches from the best fighters in the division. And I think Josh wins the fight by stoppage, I think. I think he'll break Teofimo's heart and take him out of the fight.
Well, you know what? I'm picking Teofimo Lopez by stoppage. Now what? This fight ain't going the distance. So, yeah, this fight ain't going the distance. It probably is, but this fight ain't going the distance.
Well, I'm glad you guys finally disagree on something because we have not had many fighting words on here recently. But if for a more detailed breakdown and analysis of this fight this weekend from both Andreas, Tom Gray, and some of our other combat writers, you can check out sportingnews.com for all of the details. But in the meantime, prepare to watch Josh Taylor versus Teofimo Lopez Saturday night on ESPN+. And we will find out who's taking home the belts. And we'll talk about it next week. So we'll see you next week on Fighting Words. I'm Chris Maxwell for Andreas, Hale, and Tom Gray. See you next week.